graduate assistants who do a lot of the things that I used to have to do, and I don't have to do computers anymore. I don't have to be the IT person for the school. So that's something that I'm glad about. I don't miss having to run up and down the hall and tell people that they need to plug their computer in to make it come on, things like that, which happens sometimes in schools. So I don't miss that, but some of the things that I really did enjoy about being a school librarian, I still get to do collection development, reader's advisory, you know, matching people up with what they need, whether that's a kindergartner who wants, you know, who is just starting to read books that are fun and starting to read a little bit themselves, or college students who need materials for lesson planning. That's what is important to me, is that when someone comes in, they are looking for something, and I want to be able to give them what they're looking for and some other things that they didn't know that they needed or wanted and didn't know were there, but that we in the library can provide for them. So, you know, that's very much the same in all the different levels of libraries that I've been in.
Hi, my name is David Glenn, and I apologize if my voice goes out sometime in the middle of this in the middle of this session. But background: how did I get here? Let's see. I actually was born and raised in Greensboro, interestingly enough, and got my undergraduate degree from UNCG. Started out in broadcasting, but that didn't last very long, and then ended up double majoring in sociology and geography, which prepared me for an exciting career in graduate school. At which point I moved to San Francisco because I had the idea that I was going to go to graduate school at Berkeley. Everything was going to be great. I was going to be an urban planner, and life was going to be wonderful. Lived in San Francisco for 13 years. I did a lot of really interesting things there. I got to watch the internet be born right down the street from where I lived. Did a lot of really nice things. None of them involved going to grad school to become an urban planner. That sort of went by the wayside once I got there. One of the things I was doing while I was there, though, was learning how to develop websites, which is something that sort of became a bigger part of my life later on in life. And also, during the time I was living in San Francisco, I was working for the company currently known as FedEx Office, recently known as FedEx Kinko's, and it's a revolving door name company. But while I was there, I learned a lot of things about document management, project management, HR, working with people, etc. Hated it. Did it for 15 years. Hated it. But, in the process, though, while working with websites, I also found myself doing a lot of research on a personal level. I have some personal interests involving building history, what we call commercial archaeology, where you look at a building and say, oh, that used to be this and this and this. Through building research, I found myself working with a lot of the early digital library projects, photographs, databases online, newspapers, city directories, that kind of thing. At some point during all that, and after I moved back here from San Francisco, a little light bulb went off in my head and said, well, you know, maybe this is what you ought to be doing. Maybe it works well with what you're currently doing, and maybe sort of everything you've been doing up to this point may have led to working in this field. And you know, that was a pretty bright light bulb, and it just hit me right at the right time too, when I was actually sort of looking for what I was going to do with the rest of my life. So as it happened, I came back to UNCG again and entered the LIS program here, which, you know, I look on now, it might have been one of the wisest moves I ever made. The LIS program here, as you all probably know, is a great place to be. The faculty is incredible. In this room, we've got Dr. Bird, Dr. Chow, Dr. Carmichael, all of them work, and Dr. Shiflett, all of them work with me very closely. It's the kind of program that didn't have exactly what I wanted to do, but it allowed me to sort of make my own program and do what I wanted to do and learn what I needed to know to move on. And it was just amazing. It offered me incredible opportunities. One of which, interestingly enough, was as a student worker in the digital projects unit at Jackson Library, where I came and worked on a project called Civil Rights Greensboro, which was, if you haven't looked at it online, I'll give you the URL quickly because that's what I do. It was a great project. It gave me, I came into library school knowing this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to work with digital projects. I wanted to digitize old material, archival material that wouldn't be available otherwise, and put it online. That's sort of my thing. Even as a web designer, my thing was more the content than the back end and the programming. And working on this project as a student worker was a great thing for me, A, because it allowed me to learn everything I wanted to learn about actually working with a digital project. But, interestingly enough, and eventually, through an interesting set of circumstances and good luck, and became my full-time job. And I started this in 2008. In 2009, I actually was able to come in temporarily to fill the end of a contract position as it was actually a professional librarian position. I filled in the end of the contract for that. And as luck would have it, after a few months in that position, I was able to successfully interview and go into my current position, which is Digital Projects Coordinator, where I supervise currently 2.5 FTE, and if you don't know what FTE is, you will. It means full-time equivalent, so the equivalent of 2.5 full-time employees, plus the number of student employees, practicum students, several of which are actually sitting here right now. And we basically digitize things, describe them, and put them online so that you can sit here and look at them while you're bored and might not want to be listening to me. I'll be happy to hang out URLs so that you can be looking at other stuff online. I feel incredibly lucky to have come to this position when I did. I think it says a lot about the program here at UNCG that I had what I needed to actually be able to jump in this position pretty much right up on, actually a little bit before graduation. And I feel incredibly lucky. If you've ever worked in a job or spent years working in a job that you didn't find terribly satisfying, and you didn't like all that much, or you sort of dreaded going to work every day, you can't imagine how nice it is all of a sudden to have a job that you're actually excited to come to every day, that you love so much that you want to come, and you sometimes even stay late because you're enjoying what you're doing so much that you don't want to go home. It's an amazing thing, and it's a great field to be in. The whole digital projects field right now. We're sort of at a turning point now. There were the early digital projects where everybody sort of didn't know what they were doing. They were sort of making it up as we're going along. And the great thing about this is I really like it because we're still kind of making it up as we go along. There are a few ground rules that we follow, but we don't have AACR2. We don't have all that infrastructure, all the backgrounds right now. We sort of have to design what we're doing as we go along. And it's a great thing. You feel like you're contributing to, I don't know, the genesis or the birth of something that's going to be great over the coming years. Again, that works well for me. For me, even though I work in the IT department, and I think I came into where I am because I have some IT background, though I don't sometimes think I have as much as everybody else thinks I have. Technology for me has always been a means to an end. It's not really about the technology, it's about the stuff. The technology facilitates making the stuff available, but I'm far more interested in the stuff than the actual technology that drives it. It's not to say you don't have to know a lot about the technology, or at least something about it, but if you keep your mind focused on the fact that you're creating content and material, that's what the important thing is. And everything else is kind of secondary to that. I'm happy to be where I am. I like to work with students and hopefully try to pass on some of that excitement about what I do to them, and hopefully I'm not just passing on the tedium that I don't feel like doing myself. It's great. I love what I do, and I'm always excited to talk about it. So please talk to me about it more. If you have any other questions.
Gerald Holmes, Reference Library and Diversity Coordinator, University Libraries. And true, I'm ecstatic to be here. And definitely, I'm going to give you a capsule of kind of why I got started, but definitely come to my table and I can talk more. True, I'm a native of Greensboro, and I actually graduated from Dudley High School, and actually they had a library club when I I was in high school, and my parents were educators, second grade teacher, and my father was a sixth grade teacher. So of course, education has always been around. Also an only child. So they would have books, and I would get the Cat in the Hat in the mail, every month. And it was always exciting. Of course, they got bills, but I got Cat in the Hat. But still, it was very exciting. So I've always enjoyed reading. I went off to college, UNC Charlotte, and big 9-story building. I'm used to a 2-story, little small place, but still nice, quiet area, studying, things like that. Had a wonderful time. And when I was thinking about college, of course, I was thinking about Fortran and computer science and things like that. I actually went to school thinking I was going to be someone who did that. But I didn't have that strong math background, and so I later changed to criminal justice because I wanted to do service, I wanted to do something to help people. So, getting near graduation and, go to the career services, looking at possibilities, and, I think I had one course where it said, you need to talk to some people who might be doing what you're thinking about. And I knew I enjoyed the library. So I did meet the director of the library. And he was telling me about, in the future, there are going to be computers. And remember, I'm looking at card catalog, books, I ain't seen no computer, nowhere. He's talking about computers. And, I had that Fortran, I had that, So later on, I said, let me go look into this further. And actually, Chapel Hill is going from a 1-year to a 48-hour program to add more computer courses. So I, of course, got in and went there, and of course, still no computers, but still they're talking about it, so we're studying about it. And it was very exciting. I was a criminal justice major, so I was thinking about law librarianship. And of course, just like Kate just said, you have to have that law degree to go with the library degree. And I really wasn't thinking about a JD, so I kind of looked at what I was already doing, which was academic librarianship. I had never worked in a library, so I knew that I would need to go probably 3 years and get the practical experience. So I had a chance to work as a graduate assistant. I also had a chance to work in the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency library, while I was there. That's where the computers were, because they had OCLC, which was very key because once I graduated, there weren't many people who had that type of expertise. And I remember working on my thesis, using the computers in the evenings at night. And it was just it was a great opportunity, to have something on your resume that not many people had. Of course, I also had the opportunity to work at the reference desk with people like Michael Jordan and Perkins, and the football players. And keep in mind, it's very important to think about the fact that not only do you want to recruit them, but you want them to continue to matriculate. So I brought that into every academic setting I was at. Every student is important. Graduate, PhD, the faculty. I want them to get tenure. I want them to publish. Whatever I can do, I'm going to do it. And what can I do? And I also thought about the fact that, and I know that Dean Holly, he told us all, it's not enough just to get that library degree, but you got to be political. You got to learn more about what happens, as you move, be in charge of your career and what you do. Also, serve on committees and be active in organizations. And what I saw was, once I learned this in library school, I got to keep learning. Because, true, there weren't that many computers there, but there's going to be computers. And, it really stayed with me. And of course, I've worked in 7 different libraries, 7 different institutions. Elon University, George Mason, Georgia State, Kent State University, University of Cincinnati, my alma mater, University of Charlotte, and of course I'm here at UNC Greensboro. I've learned a lot of different things from those different places. True, the computer, the technology, the digital projects, everything is important. And what's exciting for me is every day was something new, a new opportunity. And of course, going to the conferences, especially ALA, you get to the point where those vendors want to meet with you because they want to know what students are using, faculty. They want to know how they can help their public. And they know that you as a librarian wouldn't know that. So it's almost like, people look forward to meeting with you to find out, is this new product and this new service or this new technique, is it working? And many times times we'll tell them, hey, we hate it. You know, that database is not doing anything. You need to add 1 or 2 things, and we notice they do it in about 6 months, then it could remain competitive. So to kind of end up here, I've enjoyed the computer piece, and you know, I realize, and I wanted to mention this too, I grew up a Perry Mason fan and a Matlock fan because of criminal justice and law librarianship, and now when I see Garcia and her dealing with that information and the computers and everything, and I see CSI, I say, you know, I'm so glad, because I do that, but I do it for faculty, students, and staff. And I could be anywhere with a computer, and I'm helping people, I'm handling people, I'm sending out job announcements, I'm doing things that people need, and I do hear from people, and they say, thank you so much, you were right on time. So when I see that, and I talk to you, and I tell you, people are going to value you. Of course, my wife loves me because I'm helping her, I'm helping family members, colleagues who I've left the institution, but they remember how helpful I was. Always, with the computer, I'm always helping people. So, you know, it's a great feedback opportunity for me, and I feel real good.
And I want to thank all of you for getting up this morning and being with us, because Saturdays are real important. So let's give everybody a hand and we'll break up. About the same for breaking up into groups?
Sure. And before we do, I just want to just offer my synopsis of some of the trends that you heard here about just a few technical difficulties. All of these individuals didn't necessarily have a specific focus in terms of where they are at now. And I think that what you'll find about all of them, just by the fact that they committed their time here, and some of you that have taken my classes, I like to say give and get. I think these are all representative of the fact that by working hard and being passionate about what you do, it will take you down the right journey. So, and as always, we're so grateful that they're giving their time to our community. Again, these are relationships that you want to build with them. So as we break a great segue into the roundtable discussions, which will basically be meet with them individually. We have the little star system because we recommend that you move around and get to know all of these wonderful. So great job. And that being said, we have refreshments, and what we'll do is we'll guide you to your tables, get something to drink, and please just have some more intimate discussions with them. And then as far as those of you online, we will take you table to table. So, thank you.
I see school media and information science back here. And what else? Public library, special library, academics.
School and information, if you want to get over it, we're all and you're more than welcome to move between groups.
Now we need to get this set up for the, right?
Oh yeah, I guess we can do that now.
So I'm going to get Anthony to help me. Terry, are you tied up right now? No. We're going to clear this stuff out. Where's Anthony? Anthony? Speed dating thing. So this stuff needs to get cleared up, and then we need to get action on the
Sounds good. Terry, Aisha is going to bring the online posts to different tables. And again, because we have the chat communication, they're not going to be able to communicate with have. So if there's a way that maybe you can keep that laptop out, and they ask the questions, and they'll ask it in Does that sound good?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
So and we should have enough juice here too, where it should be okay for a while.
Nice comments.
Thank you. Thank you.
You make a good MC.
Okay, so where's Alicia? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take you to each table, and Alicia is going to be your virtual hostess, a member of the ISSC, Instructional Student Support Committee that sponsors this event. And what we'll need you to do is chat with Terry to let him know if you have any specific questions of each individual. So with that being said, I'm going to turn you over to your virtual hostess, Alicia. They can hear you, but they can't communicate back to you. So,
Okay.
So feel free to bring them to whatever table.
Good morning.
I would suggest you just follow her around with your laptop.
Okay, I'm out of plug in.
Okay.
Who's in the session?
There'll be four people. So,
Okay.
And he's got the access to the chat log. So,
Okay.
So I guess why don't we go to a table, and then Terry will let you know if there are any questions.
Okay. Guess we can start with the special libraries group. That to be a librarian anywhere else, you needed a Master in Library Science, which I said, what is that? What do I need that for? Why would I need such a thing? I'm perfect, I know everything. Well, I said, well, they aren't giving me a job regardless. So I guess I better go get this thing. Well, I applied to Michigan. I knew enough because the librarians all advised me to go to an ALA school. So I do, and we had a choice between Michigan and Boston and Simmons, and so I went to Simmons. I gave my husband a choice. He said, well, let's go back to Boston. So we went to Boston. And then from there, they turned me on to public libraries, the potential in public libraries, which I had no idea. Because the way I grew up, public libraries were really silent. And books were taken off the shelves and were put behind the library director's desk. And I remember being challenged by the head librarian that I was reading J.D. Salinger, and who on earth assigned such a book? And I went to this private Catholic school. And I said, they did. The nuns. It's like, oh my God. So anyway, I said, oh, public libraries don't have to do that? And then when the whole thing, turned around, so I said, I kind of like that. Well, I got a job straight out of library school as the director for a public library for a town of about 28,000, a staff of 20. The average age of the employees, I think, was about 50. Of course, their experience was way more than what I had. But what I had and what I brought to the table was, A, I was on top of everything that was new. B, I'm a natural manager. C, I'm good at budgets. D, I'm really good at public relations, and everything that Clara was telling you was right on. You have got to be able to sell your budget. I don't care what kind of a library you're in. And that is the thing that I bring to each of my libraries. And really, even if you're on the sidelines and you're not the manager or the director, you've still got to be able to sell that library. You're always selling it. I can't tell you how critical.
I think that's something for departments within a library as well to be able to, like a larger, okay. I would imagine,
Yes,
but
you're
not
always, you're selling to every person that comes to you. Every contact you have has got to be positive, has got to be something that you leave with people being satisfied that even if you can't find that you have done to the last, you've taken to the last step. They know you've gone the extra step. But usually, in fact, I've never sent anyone away with an answer. There's always an answer. Even if you have to call 6 libraries, you know, but there's an answer. So, yes, that's a big part of it. So I was started out in public library, and then I moved on to an academic library. It was it's Wentworth Institute of Technology, and it was engineering college in Boston. And what did I know about engineering? Of course, absolutely nothing. But with library science, you bring those research skills with you, and they hold regardless of where you are. There's a science to library science, and that's what it is. That's the structure. And so therefore, you can search anywhere. You're always learning, whether it's a public library, whether it's an academic library, regardless of what kind, whether it's a special library. You're constantly learning, you're constantly studying, you're constantly reading, you're constantly updating yourself, and you're constantly learning on your feet. Kate brought that. You mentioned how many times did you say there was some place where you were learning on your feet? Always, always. I mean, you cannot expect to graduate from here and know it all when you start. You cannot. It's impossible.
Excuse me. I have a question from one of our virtual viewers.
Sure.
Might I jump in?
Sure, of course.
Okay. Whit Preston would like to know, how are special libraries utilizing distance education, training, and etc.?
Well, I don't know about distance training, possibly for big corporations that have multi-sites all over the world. We don't. We're only on one campus. Mm-hmm. But we have a website. Our website is really active. And we have training programs on our website that people can access. So, you know, we do that. But in any case, so from engineering, then I went back to the public library for a while. Then we moved down here, and I ended up with a small Bible college that needed accreditation, and they needed a certified librarian. So they kind of talked me into doing that. And I did it for a number of years. And now here's theology, okay, which, by the by, I had a minor in theology. So it wasn't too foreign to me, but it was foreign enough. It's another language. Every specialty has its language. You have to learn the language. So you learn the language, but you're still doing the same kind of work. And if you know the basics, it'll carry you through. Now, this was a throwback to the libraries that weren't computerized. This is where I was. And that really helped me because I knew how it was all done on paper. Whereas if somebody came in and didn't know how it was done on paper, I don't know what they'd do with this library. I really don't. Because this library was in a tumble. But by the time I finished with it, it wasn't in a tumble anymore. And it was in pretty good shape. But there were the basics, like when someone came to me and said, oh, well, what is the Catholic position on fasting? And I said to them, well, I could probably tell you, but if I did, that would be my opinion. And what you really want to know is what is the Catholic position. And for that, you need to go to this Catholic reference. And that's, you know, and then teaching, using it as a teaching moment. So that, you know, you're always teaching. Well, anyway, from there, I went to Lorillard Tobacco Company. And here, this is a completely different kind of a library. First of all, it's almost all life sciences and chemistry. What do I know about chemistry? Now I know a lot. Well, a little. What I knew before I got there was exactly zero. I never took a chemistry course. I didn't know anything about life sciences. Well, I did a lot of learning on my feet. What I did know was how to manage a library. I learned. Right now, because of the tools that we have, I take a lot of WebExes. I take a lot of courses from the various info pods that we have. I go to conferences. I belong to SLA, NCSLA, ALA, NCLA. I take courses over the web from various other organizations. We do a lot of patent searching. I've studied patents. Pretty good patent search. When I started out, I barely knew what a patent was. I knew what a patent was, how to search one. I do now. And I learned pretty fast, too. I mean, I had to. So there was patent searching, command line searching, dialogue, and what is it, STN. That's pretty important in special libraries because you're going to have to use those two tools. I wouldn't recommend that you learn it on the job because it does take a while. If you can possibly pick that up in library school, I would do that. I would learn command line searching. I don't know if they even teach patent searching. But if you could, on the side, I would learn it.
I teach that course. It's called LIS 628.
Okay, good.
There you go. Okay.
Yes, you did.
There you go. And then
Alicia took that course and they survived.
foreign languages come in helpful because you never know, documents are coming in from all kinds of places. And something else that's important to know is your negotiation skills. How to negotiate for these various products. How to read contracts. The information products are very expensive, and when you buy them, it is a mistake to think they have all the power. That is a big mistake. If you don't have a lawyer to back you up, this institution does. In other institutions, I never had one. I had to do it myself. That's okay, but you need to have some negotiating skills. You can hold your own. I have saved the institution hundreds of thousands of dollars. I even backed out of it, and said, sorry, man, I'm going to buy this, and had them come back a year later, okay, with a good product. But you need to know how to do that for your library. The budget, you need to know code. You've got to know it like the back of your hand, and you've got to know how to use it and what the rules are, so that you can keep everybody happy. And for political skills, just being able to work, whether it's in your city and town, I mean, that can be tough. If you have to go to a town meeting and speak on the floor, if you have to deal with your FinCom, if you have to deal with your town selectman or your town manager, or if you're inside of a corporation and you have to, I'm talking about town government, city government.
Why don't we find out if they have any questions?
Okay.
Do you guys have questions about working for special libraries? Any questions at all that we can help you with?
I have a pretty broad question, which is just that from the student perspective, it seems so broad. Like, how do you even start looking for a special library you want to work for? Everyone seems to kind of say it just like, well, that was the next thing. I found out about a position, and it's like, well, how do you get yourself trained for it?
Go to the SLA website.
Yeah, I guess that's...
And the NCSLA website.
The other thing is, while you're in library school, do you have something that interests you? If you have a science background, then maybe you want to go for an academic to a science-based school, or you want to think about going to work for a special library in a corporation that's going to have you for pharmaceutical corporations or for L'Oreal, where you go, or Sandoz or Monsanto, that's going to require a basic science background that is going to set you apart from the every other library, exit level librarian school student who's applying. Because that's really going to help you if you've got something that says, I'm going to be more useful than the English major.
On the other hand, if you don't have a science background, don't let that put you in. That's what I was trying to tell you. I don't have that background, but I haven't had trouble getting it. But if you did have that background, that's your extra ace in the hole.
Well, you did confirm, Dr. Carmichael told me early on that if I wanted to major academic library, then
Can you speak up a little, Robert? I can't even hear you.
I would have to have a second master's degree to do that. And I don't have the money nor the years left to do that. So I was a little disappointed in that. I mean, I understand it,
but what I'm hoping to do is to parlay what experiences I have at this stage of my life and what I'm getting for the program to get into a special library or an academic library that may not be a tier 1, because I won't have 2 masters.
What's your undergrad in?
English and writing.
Okay. Did you know that publishers have libraries?
I do now.
Yeah.
It's like piggyback her question. How do you know?
Okay,
all
you
of these
need to go to the
libraries?
SLA website.
Right.
Okay, there's so much information on Special Libraries Association website. First of all, there are special libraries in every kind of a subject you could imagine. From National Geographic to publishers of all sorts.
Okay.
To education institutions,
to do lobbying for state funding because we're in bad shape, as you well know. Anyway, one of my colleagues cut out shapes of North Carolina and we put it in the front of our folders that we have, and we said, state aid to public library for North Carolina's 100 counties is $15,776, infinitesimal in terms of the $19.9 billion state budget. And it's formulated to equalize library service. All libraries would take a massive hit. Rural libraries would have to cut critical services. Our system would have to cut over $62,000. And I told the legislators, and we're not cutting people. If we have to borrow money, we're going to cut books and let all the citizens in 5 counties come and knock on your door, not ours. And we'll put a sign on the door and say, we don't have new books because of you. And on the inside, we pulled from North Carolina statistics and for last year to show that there were over 91 million virtual hits on the computer by North Carolinians last year looking for jobs, information, and so on. I thought that was phenomenal. Over 44 million library visits to public libraries in North Carolina. And we loan in the state over 56 million. So anyway, we shared these statistics, and these were our regional statistics. And this sheet was talking points from the Directors Association, and we included that. And we visited, our 5 counties have 11 legislators, and we visited them and took this message and talked to them and had a photo op. Took things home, and I wrote press releases yesterday to go. So the marketing part of it is the piece that I really love. The marketing and programming, that's my forte. We have a couple people who love cataloging. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
You know, thank goodness. So, you get what you need here. You have to choose what. Choose what you like. What you're good at. And that's what. So, what questions do you have? I'm not contagious. The cold went about 7 weeks ago, and the cough is still. So I get sip water.
First time. Well, I was actually going to see if you could sort of elaborate on it a little more. You talked about how one of the things that you value from this program is sort of the flexibility that people have, sort of the ability to jump into any situation. Are there any sort of particular skills that you also look for, or that you feel like the program does a good job?
Flexibility. You have to be flexible. You really have to be flexible. I can't emphasize that too much. Yes, we have rules and guidelines, but you know, it's about custom. It's about the question, the searching that you like to do in the reference, or that I like to do. it's about helping them narrow down whatever need they have. Being flexible, because people come to us grumpy, they come to us happy. We don't know where they've been when they come through that door. We don't know who's been verbally hitting on them or nice to them or what have you. And I think flexibility and finding an area of librarianship that you love and do a lot of that. Do a lot of that up front and then set a time to do those things you have to do that you don't like as much but are necessary to do. And, you know, I've been doing that for 30 years. I probably haven't cataloged 10 books in 30 years because I have people who like to do that. And they do a good job. And they need praise for doing the things they do well. And so on. So they do that. I have people who are horrified at going to Raleigh. One young man I hired who was wonderful in collection development. Wonderful. He is. This is an interesting story. He took over the county I left when I went to be regional director. And I helped him through library school. He has next to the smallest population of 5 counties, but always the highest circulation. Because we built, before I left, we have mystery freaks in that little county who will kill for the next whatever. You know, Cohen, Grisham, no. So we have developed this, and David has built on this. He has built on this, and Moore County has 85,000 people. Montgomery County has about 28,000 people. Yet the circulation in Montgomery, not quite twice, but almost twice. So collection development is so important. So he gets a lot of credit for that, and I have to mentor him. I have to drag him to Raleigh. He doesn't like to wear silly hats with support libraries, which I think you have to do, and carry signs around and so on. But I've taught him and mentored him. They're not going to be your life. A politician doesn't have to be just like all of us. You know, they're just people. And they may be very smart in what they do, but we could teach them a lot more than we did. And that's what we have to do. So David's very good in collection development. Benita is wonderful in technology. The lady we had in Anson for 8-9 years, a magician in programming. I mean, they have old people lining up for some over 50. They call it the over 50s club. And so she was magic in programming. And you need all those people. When they come together monthly, they share. And they get equal time, whether it's technology, whether it's cataloging, programming, collection development. And our monthly book reviews we took to another level. They all have to share, even the shy ones. They have to share with whatever they've read, and it has to be in digital form too, because we want to put it online. After the meeting, they have to send it online to David, who's the collection person, and he puts staff picks, you know, online at our website that we, you know, that we've done. Come to think of it, I wonder if I sent mine this week. I'm trying to. I did the review, but I don't know if I sent it. Anyway, I don't know individually what you're interested in, and whether rural librarianship is not for everybody. I love it. I love to be in control of my life. I love to take my budget and defend it myself. And in larger settings, you can't do that. I mean, Sandy Gearman has, you know, she takes and defends to, I guess, the finance department or whatever in Guilford, and then they move it along. I go face to face with county commissioners. I like that. I like to be in control of winning or losing or passing or failing. So that's the good part of that. But there are also positive things about positive and wonderful things about the larger system. Salaries are probably a little bit better. You can focus if you want to only do reference or you only want to do whatever. A larger system allows you to do that. If you work for me, you're going to do everything. And sample, all parts. So their values in both settings. It just depends on you and what you're interested in and what your background is. If you're a city girl, and you want to be near restaurants and this, that, and the other, not to be starved, obviously I don't starve, but, neat restaurants and that sort of thing, and lots of entertainment, you may want to be, near a larger city. But I don't like, as an administrator, I don't like to be stuck in my office all the time. I do a lot of training myself, but I still go out and do storytelling, and I still go out and do programs to test myself and see if I've forgotten how to do or forgotten how to do things.
Yeah.
My repertoire is dwindling. I don't have a lot of new stuff like I've worked on all the time when I was in Montgomery County, but rural librarianship is something I love, and I have for 30 years. Not for everybody. How far along are you guys in your program?
Oh, I'm only in my first year.
Oh, good.
Second semester, first year. Actually, I volunteered I'm from Virginia, and I volunteered at a rural library as well. So the director was really great. She kind of took me under her wing, and she let me do more than just reshelve books because they spent all their money on, they have their staff and everything. They have all these really great programs going on, and they use the volunteers to really help out.
Where in Virginia are you from?
I'm from the Tidewater area.
Oh,
I was
okay.
working at the Matthews Memorial Library.
Okay.
So all your talk about the director wearing many hats, I remember her wearing many hats and being very involved in everything. Sometimes the staff complained about it, but it was really nice.
You don't have a choice.
Yeah.
You have to be able to be flexible and be willing to go. I often got calls. In 15 years I was in Montgomery before I became regional director of the same system. Somebody would call me at 11:45 and say, "The speaker we were supposed to have at Rotary called and they can't be here. Can you come?" Sure. And I would go down and grab our most recent brochure, talk about that. Well, what I'd do is grab the brochure, but I'd go in and tell these old men a story, bounce around there and tell a story and get their attention. Because no matter how young or old people are, you have to get their attention before you can teach them anything. So I love doing that. And it keeps you being able to stand on your feet, and get your adrenaline going. Now, and you, where are you in the program?
Same for second semester.
Yeah. Are you from here?
I'm originally from New England, but I've been here about 12 years.
Oh, okay. Well, we've
had many different jobs before library school.
That's okay. That's good.
Yeah. I have a lot of, like when you were talking about bringing your skills with you, I'm like, absolutely, definitely.
Well, I think many years ago, the year of accounting was certificate accounting. Need today in budget. Yes, accounting rules have changed, but certain balancing the budget, and and many of the very principles help me because I work not only on have to develop the regional budget, but I have to help each of the directors.
Oh, yeah.
So, that piece. And the 9 years of broadcasting, I wrote advertising copy and called on clients again. So, the advocacy, that brought those skills along with you to do that, so you don't lose anything that you've done before.
I use, when I'm working at High Point and I'm working with students, I use my customer service skills, because I worked in retail for years and years and years, and I can use that because I can approach people all the time. But I was in the teaching, well, I was an anthropology major, but I also did the secondary ed, so I use a lot of my teaching things that I learned here on how to help them. You know, I helped a kid yesterday do a Word doc, and he was inserting pictures, and he had no idea how to use Word, and I showed him, and I let him do it, and I step by step, and he was like, thank you, thank you, thank you. He was so grateful that I showed him how to do it, but it was easy for me, but I was happy to, show him how to do it.
I think really in whatever kind of library system you end up in, being able to wear as many hats as possible, I think is kind of, because, well,
it keeps it interesting too.
Well, and a lot of the times, even if technically there might be a specialist in their department, there's somebody out there who that's their only job, they're not necessarily going to be there for you.
Right.
So, this person needs help right now.
Yeah.
Well,
it's nice to be able to jump in there.
And you think you're trying to decide whether you want to do college level or public or whatever. Depends on,
I'm in my last semester now, so I'm sort of starting to do the search. So I'm kind of open. I'm not going to be too choosy.
Well, you have to leave yourself open.
There's that flexibility you're
I'm
talking
kind
about.
of wide open as to, I'm doing the media licensure because I have my teaching license already, so I figured why not do it.
Oh, you need to do both. You need to have your forward stamped with media,
that's what
public,
I figured.
whatever.
Yeah.
Because you don't know.
And I work in academic, but I'm also interested in public. So I mean, I'm kind of open to it. I mean, I'm not trying to be like non-committal, but I'm kind of interested in all of them.
Well,
I've got my foot in one, I'm working on another, and I'm still have interest in another.
And there's a lot of overlap too, right?
Yeah.
And just sometimes people get sort of caught up in, oh well, this is this really discrete skill set. But
well, and they, all the things, as I said before, all the things you bring along with you, and you have to decide. It's okay if you get into a situation and you're working, you still do a good job. But it's okay if after a while you're not as happy as you thought you would be in that setting. I've known friends of mine who were teachers and they didn't know how to switch gears and they were extremely after 10 years. Well, what can I do? I've already got 10 years towards retirement. But it's your life every day. Why? And they said to me, why are you so happy with your job? And I said, because I don't do, I do quickly the things I don't like to do, and I try to do them, get them out of the way, so I can spend more time working on advocacy piece, or working on a staff training thing, or doing some of the things I really enjoy. So, life is too short.
Yeah.
Life is too short to spend years in a setting. My problem in the school setting is not the schools in Georgia or Florida. We're okay. But that's not for me. I cannot eat every day at 12. Yeah. Sometimes I'm hungry at 11:15. Sometimes I don't have lunch until 3 o'clock in the afternoon if I'm totally into something. And so it was the setting that was not appropriate for me. And I like that freedom to move, and so on that I have at public library. And that really doesn't matter, to a lot of people. That's okay. but it's not for me. And I did it for several years, and I loved the teachers, and the principals were wonderful to me, and the kids, and they taught me a lot about improv. I went in trying to just read when my husband drugged me to Georgia, and I saw little children wiggling, and I learned, you know, you got to be on the move with these people. They're used to TV, they're used to all this stuff, so you gotta skim that book and put some action into this, or you're going to lose them. So the children taught me a lot, and I really had a good time at it. Started having a good time. And our library had two big glass doors. I began to notice, I looked out the corner of my eye, and the principal would be, when the children were in there, and we were telling stories to them. The principal
activities, their website, their newsletters, whatever, in one place. And they want to do it. They want to do it, but they can't quite figure out exactly how to do it. They want to get the software and all that stuff. And I talked to Lee Shipley when he was the chair of the department about getting a library science student here to be on the team. And because I see it as a continuing position for a library science student, whether that student rotates in and out, or whether to be able to help the entire community and be doing information.
It's actually, yeah, that would be interesting talking with you about that, because we're wanting to do a lot of local industry projects. A lot of local industry. Kind of our first steps right now. We're actually putting up you're familiar with the Greensboro Patriot newspaper. We're putting 1840 to 1922 online in the next year, as well as the pre-1923 city directories.
Same thing. And I do believe that neighborhoods are the first semi-political organization between the family and the city. And so, to me, getting neighborhoods organized, which a lot of them are, and then sharing that information so that they can follow certain patterns or diverge, whatever they want to do. Helps each of the neighborhoods perhaps not as well organized, that doesn't have the political oomph to get more so by sharing their bylaws, sharing their events, sharing their newsletters. That's, but I wanted to integrate the NCG's library school students in some way. So Shiflett had said that you could commit about 20 hours a week for a student intern, he thought. Wouldn't necessarily be a paid internship, but that's not that it could be. It's just that we had an initial discussion. So if any of you are interested in that concept, the neighborhoods get the website up. But more than that, because a lot of people can do that, to get their information organized and then share it with other neighborhoods through the Greensboro Neighborhood Compass. And we had the Bryan Foundation as well, and some other foundations willing to give us the money to purchase, let's say, the software that I sell to get it started, because the tools are already there. We just need some information skills and time to work on it.
Have you spoken with Benjamin Byling in the history department?
No, I know the name.
His students have done a lot of work. They did the kind of Mill Villages project that you know, someone.
You guys can come together. Everybody's doing their own little thing, which if we need to, we need.
Have you heard of the Denver Creating Communities website?
I have heard of it.
They list a lot of information about the historical neighborhoods. And that one was actually built in Drupal.
It's Pittsburgh, yeah. It's not as neighborhood centered as the Denver one. The Denver one is really close to what you're talking about. Good call on that.
Yeah. I will look at that. Okay, speaking of technologies, do you enjoy these little things? Do you enjoy working at this scale, this small
I love
scale?
my iPad.
Do you?
I love my iPad. I mean, it's great to just be able to be in a meeting. And, what's the name of the Denver website?
Creating communities. See, I used to work at Walmart, and this fit perfectly into my locker, so I could watch movies at lunch.
I'm afraid it's scale.
I don't
So
know.
blind.
The great thing is you can flip it, make it bigger, and you can also. But yeah, that's the great thing for me has been you're at a meeting, you just pass a website around the table.
Different ways of handling things, so.
It doesn't deal with Flash, which is why this iPad OS doesn't deal with Flash at all, which on some level I respect it greatly for that, but it makes some websites a little difficult to navigate.
And for my undergrad capstone, we had to do Flash websites. So I'm guessing none of us are, well, they're 2 and 3 years old now, so it would work.
Well, something I found, and again, this is the benefit of gray hair, okay? Been around the block. So, and one of the things we were asked to address, but we won't talk too long about where we came from, so we didn't have time to talk about these other things, is what have you seen happen, and where do you see the future going in your particular area? And for my area, I would say, you know, what goes around comes around. Started working with mainframes, computers when I was in library school, and then mini computers, and then microcomputers, and then personal computers, and now we're back to servers and server farms, which are, you know, they may look a little different, but we're still talking about big honking computers again. And so
the clouds went away. The cloud went away for a while, but it always comes back.
Yeah. So you're going to see this. You know, you're young, and you're going to see these things happen all over again. I'm not sure where they're going, but they will. So I wouldn't worry too much about learning. Well, the other thing I was going to say is, you know, physicians learn really about 30 drugs that they prescribe over and over and over again out of, you know, 30,000. And a girlfriend of mine was telling me, it's a pediatrician, I said, how do you keep up with all these medicines? How do you deal with the information overload? And she said, most of us really only prescribe about 30 things on a regular basis. So find out wherever you're going, whatever it is, what are the major tools used there. Learn those tools. Interview wherever you want to be, network wherever you want to be, as if you were going to go there. And if Washington and the Library of Congress is where you want to be, start interviewing and networking there as soon as you can. Because to me, and find out what the tools are that they use all the time, and use those tools. And you don't have to be proficient in all this other stuff, because the chances are, just like physicians, you're going to be using a few tools a good deal of the time. So that's something that was kind of news to me in thinking back.
Okay.
I know that maybe about 8 or 9 people that I know personally found jobs within the last 2 months of 2010, all in DC.
Interesting.
Yes, that seems to make the big migration right now. As far as I know, I think it's one of the few places in the country where they can't find people to fill the jobs in the first place.
There were archives jobs available in Washington when I graduated, but you know, the problem is that they were payoff is low, and it's a very high cost of living. So I think you're going to find jobs in Washington D.C. And if you can swing it, I mean, it's a great place to work.
The only problem is that the jobs you find in Washington D.C. are going to pay the same thing they pay here.
Yeah,
I was looking at one the other day. It's essentially what I do, but at a corporate level in Portland, and they were going to pay less than I'm making here to live in Portland.
Let's get that.
Yeah. Like, I don't know exactly who they think they're going to find that's going to be. I mean, at that point, it's not even a question of whether you would live well, but whether you'd be able to live at all. Because Portland's a pricey place.
Yeah, my friend's making $45,000 in DC, but I did the cost of living, it's about $30,000 here.
Right.
Yeah, so she was like, yeah, make all this money, and I'm like, yeah, not quite.
And they live outside of Washington. I can see them live outside.
Carrolltown, Maryland.
Yeah, so you have to commute in. And
oh yeah, it's an hour and a half one way.
I think a lot of my customer base has transitioned from being larger corporate libraries, which is sort of where I came from, to most of those already have something in place. They have a database software package, they have a website that they're going to use, and they really are not in a position to change right now. And are not, status quo is okay. So we're finding more and more smaller organizations, whether it be a neighborhood or a nonprofit, are cropping up, and they want, for the first time ever, they're like the youngsters, they want, oh, we'd like help organizing this, and they don't have the same security or money or ongoing commitment that the large corporations had years ago. But it's the new market out there. Churches want, America's churches want a database to organize their membership or to organize their photographs that they've collected, and they're just getting to the point they can do it, and they don't have a lot of money. So the customer database gets harder and harder to find, and more narrow and specialized, but it's actually kind of fun once you get there. You should find them.
About volunteering at places, and that's a great idea, because I know even like I've worked a couple times that we get reference at Salem College, and they don't have a full-time archives, but they want to move into something like maybe Content DM, or they're just starting to digitize their photographs, and they need it desperately, but they don't need it.
I think there's some trends in academic libraries too, as and I think we're looking at this to some extent too, as becoming the coordinating institution that does the hosting or provides the infrastructure for these smaller institutions that want to do that. There's also the Carolina Digital Heritage Center in Chapel Hill that's doing that. And collaboration with your community, I think, is entirely the future of where we're going here. If for no other reason than if you're not collaborating with the university, you're not going to get any grant funding to do what you want to do. I think, but anyhow, I think that's what we should be doing. Rather than having sort of insulated you, we should be looking out and realizing that we're part of a larger community here, and we should be working with that community. And sort of maybe in some ways even let them dictate what we're doing.
You have to give them the confidence to do it, I mean, that's the thing. It's not like we're trying to move in, and that's the
institutions like Library Tech right now, and I kind of want to do science librarian type stuff, but I've been doing database stuff. So I'm kind of interested in kind of entrepreneur, sort of moving in that direction.
Tell me about what science?
Of two.
I would have an
audience of two.
But I have bachelor's degrees in botany and physical science. So all kinds of students.
And where do you work now?
We're going to move into the next little portion that we're calling speed networking. Okay, here's what's going to happen. We're going to let you get some food, and we're going to ask the panelists and some school in the ranks of people who actually have jobs. We're going to ask the people who actually have jobs to sit on one side of the table, and we're going to have students sit on the other side of the table. And what we're going to do is ask students to kind of rotate from food to being on one side of the table. Most of you, I think what we'll have this be the empty chair, okay, where new people come. Okay? So this is the empty chair. So it'll be full for the first round, okay? So students on this side, students on that side. When I ring the bell, all these students move and a new student comes to this chair, okay? Sort of like musical chair. But except there's always going to be a chair for you. It's just that there's
This is going to be really interesting to find out.
Resume reviews are starting at the same time. Is that correct? Okay, so some of you actually have an activity that you need to go to at noon or whatever. And then you can rotate back into this lightning round. And what I'm going to do is I have icebreaker questions for both the panelists today. Because as a profession, we're not the most outgoing group of all. So we have to be sort of like structured into like structured activities where we can, you know, shine and be sort of be our best. So so we're ready. I have questions for panelists and for students, and I'll just put those on the table. So right now we have a replenishment of food, more lunchy type food. There's more coffee. There's more stuff to drink. So do that, and I would ask all of the job holders to come and sit and there and have it.
And Nora, real fast, quickly, the bird room is here, the library is there, and then the turkey, pesky cypress, all the way down the aisle, down the aisle.
No, it's Wi-Fi. That's actually the only thing.
That's one clarification or review.
So it is very
Go ahead and
difficult when you work it out.
If you don't have Wi-Fi, you're screwed.
Anyone that's not sure where to go, the registration desk has the sign. Okay. Go ahead and enjoy.
No, actually, the library gave me that.
Anyway, I work at
But today, you will want to
If you're going to buy it, this is the cheapest model. It's the one that comes with built-in Wi-Fi.
Okay, so you can pick it up, you can-
you can actually pay more and buy one that is able to access the cell phone data network as well. That costs more. You can't make phone calls on it. You just access the cell phone data.
Now, can you use something?
If it's Wi-Fi.
You could do a plane.
I did. I actually did use it on a plane over Christmas because over Christmas Google was giving free Wi-Fi on transatlantic, not transatlantic, transcontinental flights.
Was it your office one?
Yeah.
Well, I've been doing SQL. Like, my SQL.
Yeah, I have tons of stars.
Like, stars.
I got the academic star and the IT
Has
star.
proteins in it.
I don't know what the two green dots are. I don't know what that means.
Academic, but
There was the academic, you know, like the bioinformatics here, the database. So they
I don't know what the two green dots mean.
I think you're pretty special. No, but you got two. The dot. What is the
Well, I
dot?
thought the green dots meant alumni, but
You- maybe you want a
green dots,
prize.
apparently it doesn't. Okay, we must have some.
Observe right now.
You do.
Dr. Chow said we're gonna, the thing I was joking around about earlier, he actually wants to put this like in a chair and slide it. Yeah.
Well, I asked, but nobody responded.
Okay. Yeah, he said we'll give it a try.
Okay.
We might quit halfway through.
All right.
Once there. But, yeah. So we'll just plop it down on a table.
Yeah.
See what happens.
I mean,
if anyone wants to ask questions, they can
yeah,
ask questions.
if no one says yay, then that would be kind of pointless. But I get it. I'm all for it.
Yeah. At the very least, we can record it. So it's recording as a certificate.
Yeah, but I mean, so I guess then we would probably, if nobody actively wants to, like, go from place to place, maybe just try to find one of the tables so they can see it.
Yeah, he said to start with it instead of like they're seating at the table.
Yeah.
We'll start with that.
Well, if somebody comes back, you know, I'll be their voice, but so
Okay.
far no one has said they wanted to do it.
All right.
And I know that at least Ingrid is at work right now, and I don't know what he's doing or if he's even still there.
Are there still people on?
We have two.
Right.
Okay.
So we're down to one people now.
Okay. And that is Whit or Big?
We don't
No one's
know.
responding. So they might just have it on, but not be in front of their computer.
Well, if it's Whit, I know that he's got a Skype account, so if you would, just ping him one last time and let him know that if there's only one person on now, and if they want us to have them go through the speed dating, then we can link them up via Skype. Yeah. Or Google Chat. You know, actually, Google Chat might be the easiest way since they want to.
But as far as this, just keep maybe like the Ustream stuff, you want to keep that going?
Yeah, I think so. Actually, it'd be kind of fun to record it, right?
Yeah.
Still record it.
It's recorded.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So I feel my time with lots of other neighborhoods and animal welfare and preservation activities, and even through those, I start finding some of the stuff I've always wanted on the website because our website and never do it today, you know? But, you know, we haven't organized this, that, and the other. Sometimes they need to write a grant to get some to purchase software. And I just work with specific pieces of software that I use. Know how to teach somebody how to if they doesn't come up with money, sometimes it's point them to grants. But it's, right now, it's hard, I don't have a hard time saying it's a full-time business. I just fill my life with many other things. I'm of the age I realize I need to be doing it. Someone needs to be doing that too, but it's taking a long time to get there.
I mean, we've kind of mentioned this physics, and we kind of thought about like maybe like a scientific software consulting type of company kind of thing. I mean, probably get something real for now, but then, you know, I mean, that's kind of on the horizon of something that seems interesting to us.
The software package that I sell, because I use it for years, I asked if I could sell it, and they said, sure you can, but we'll be a totally independent business. We don't give you anything. There's no benefits, there's no salary, there's no spreadsheet to start with, open up Excel, make a business, have income over here and expenses over here, and go to it. It's totally self-directed. And the point where I can do that and I enjoy it, and I realize at age, unfortunately, but it's also important for me to do that. And if I have to, I could go back and listen to the library, RJ Reynolds, I think,
They're constantly advertising for
library position. Background history, and I know science. Go back. I mean, the Loyola Library needed a new head of the library a couple of years ago, and they asked me to come back, and I read it in, I did everything, and I'm not concerned. I'm not coming to do it. So sorry. But I've been out too long to go back to that structure. I could. But going back to it, no, my dad died when he was 56, and it was when I was in my 40s, and I said to myself, do I want to stay in this place? And that's why I was using that box, you know. And it literally was a box. It was a wonderful box. But, see, this is going to be it. And then, you know, money is great, the benefits is great. It's just fortunate to be able to say, so. We'll adjust. Whatever we need to adjust. I couldn't have done that. I wouldn't have pushed that risk to my husband. But really, I wish I could have. But if you'd like to, networking, the job systems. But there are special librarians, community to volunteer with. Pay off in one sense, except if you have a lot to it.
Which, I mean, that's worth something too.
Absolutely. That's the value of it. If you have to learn to let go of something else that we our generation talked about, so we did for a while, but then a lot of us went into corporate America, but younger generations?
Kind of done that, I mean, a little bit anyway. I mean, I was doing lab science type of stuff, and I'm just straight tech, like for, you know, wet lab type of stuff, and I kind of like, you know, started like kind of going for what it's interesting, and I like it, but I mean, it's a lot of the same thing. It's not challenging enough, I think, and so, for instance, like when I started volunteering at all the gardens, like teaching little kids like science stuff, like they have like a tour they do, like every weekdays during the school year. And so I do that now very often, but I was doing it like once a week, you know, going out and doing that because it was just something, you know, I mean, different, and like, you know, you never know what kind of questions they're going to ask you and stuff like that. So I mean, it's kind of, I mean, it is a challenge to do that, and then
There's nothing like teaching to learn.
Right.
Nothing like teaching, but force yourself to learn.
And so then like this database stuff came up, and like, I mean, I've been doing kind of maybe leaning towards computer science, and it's just like it's also kind of like maybe like a boring kind of thing too. So, but you know, I've kind of been trying to merge the science stuff and the computer science stuff together.
Well, there's never been a better market for it in that regard because there is so much computer science and there is so much regular science. But you've been in my house, you know where I live, and you come over anytime. And there's a lot of talk about some of these things. But at some point, I need to branch out or start working with some other people or decide to do something else.
Okay, so it is, that is her username on mail.uncg.edu. If you want, just you can look her up here, and then she can pretty much go one-on-one as we move on. So, yeah, because basically it's Google Video, so big video chat.
Okay, so
you log in your email here on mail.uncg.edu.
Okay, so stop recording this.
Or you could keep recording.
I don't know. Yeah, two at a time. I'm not sure how well that works.
Yeah.
I mean,
we could
probably just do it through here.
Actually, Google may still work. I've done it before where I run it on Skype and Google Chat. So, but yeah, just try it here.
Having internet issues like that. Okay, that's all nice.
Okay. Well, let's try all together. Ask questions here via chat, since one person, or it is if you want Skype.
Students want to take their seats across the way.
Let's keep it simple. Then let's just stay here.
Questions? Here. I've got 2 empty spots here.
Give it a try. We actually might be able to run Skype and Google Chat, but let's just get it over there first and then we'll... Let's see, this is like... Yeah, we'll be on this side, and then we'll work with Gerald.
They can do some table thing remotely.
We're gonna try.
That's a good idea.
Can't hurt, right? This will be the editing part, right?
It is a recording.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Gee, that's a pretty good shot.
I mean, and that was before.
That's the camera.
Next 2 years. So it's really.
It's like throwing your face, like you're throwing your picture up there.
What is her username again? DA.
Skype.
Oh, or DA Little. DA.
DAKALLIN.
Okay, good. Hey, Whit? Can you hear me? Whit, can you hear me?
Programs stayed, whereas the ones who are hopefully going on for the next 3 or 4 years, there was a significant decrease in the numbers of students who stayed.
All right, let's see.
It intrigues me. It just intrigues me.
She can hear me. Okay, so we don't have a professional yet, so we're going to join the line in just a second. So hold on.
What do you do? And it's not whatever. I mean, I really want to understand a little bit better. How do Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. I'd love to understand what you actually do with that.
You wouldn't have a headset with you.
So you created a database. You have to organize it. Okay. Okay. Yes.
Everybody go one to your left. Okay, Seth, you get a computer.
I get a computer. Okay.
And we don't have audio. So I think what we'll do is we'll have the chat here for you.
Okay.
And so you'll be able to hear them.
Okay.
Or see them. And then they'll be able to hear your response.
Okay.
And how was that? Nice to see you. So go ahead and ask Seth any questions you would like, and he'll be able to respond, and you'll be able to hear him. So. So go ahead and ask him any question you like.
Being the liaison for customer studies, university setting, or possibly even managing.
Hello?
Master's degree in art history, and so it's something that I really kind of wanted to practice for a while. But I think what's your ideal job? I felt like the most important thing that I did, and something to cut to the chase type role, is I took a technical
The awkward relationship between human and computers.
Yeah, exactly.
basically somebody left.
And folks, if you could chat in short words so that we know that you're asking a question, that would be helpful. And please introduce yourself to Seth. That would be great. I think we have 3 students. Go ahead. Nope, no one's asking a question right now. Go ahead.
Volunteer roles, and actually when I graduated, they just put me in a position of a nice program as much as I want to work. So I think she nice.
So if you want to say hi, Bethany, there'll be the cameras right there.
Hi, Bethany. It's kind of hard to hear you, but if you have any questions, I'd love to answer them for you. Hi, Deborah. I just saw your question right here about what a recent MLIS graduate should offer to a prospective employer. I would say flexibility. Obviously, we live in an era of tightened budgets, so certainly you want to emphasize the total sum of skills that you have, For example, if you have skills, maybe you have an experience in teaching, that would be really good. If you have skills with certain technologies, like using Skype, which apparently I don't know how to use, that would be a good thing to emphasize. If you have grant writing skills, things like that. So not only emphasize the degree you have, but what else can you bring to the table?
Writing about North Carolina. And so that's kind of like, we just got a grant that, we got a grant last year that hired 2 graduate students to do that 3 hours a week. And we're just submitted another grant that.
Hi, Melissa. I see your question here. And as you realize, I was just telling the other student, you know, we are living in an age of tightened budgets. To be a librarian these days, I see that it's like it's not enough just to have the Masters of Library Science, but to be able to actually fill a niche where you are. I work in an academic library, and in order to stay relevant where I am, I'm actually pursuing 18 credit hours of graduate level sociology, and that will allow me to teach undergraduate sociology. For example, if you are in an academic setting, you can get 18 credit hours in any subject, and with that and a master's degree, you can teach in that area. So it's good to have a niche. Maybe you know how to design websites. That would be something good to combine with, say, the library science degree.
All right, folks, we're moving over to the next one. Thank you, Seth.
All right.
So what's odd here is that we can't hear them, but they can hear and see you. Okay. So what you'll do, Kathleen, we have 3 students virtually. They will ask their questions via chat here, and then you can speak to this computer here, and here's the camera. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can't hear them because they're more than one person.
So they can hear me though, right? Hi. So I should introduce myself. My name is Kathleen Smith, and I work at Jackson Library. The archives. I work at Jackson Library in the archives. I am the Artifacts, Textiles, and Digital Projects Archivist with the University Archives.
Definitely. So my internship, I did the reference internship over at Jackson Library, and also trying to do an independent study / conference participation, because I think that really helps you. You have to prepare something, and you get over the nerves of presenting something. I did a co-presentation with a fellow student of mine, and we just did a poster presentation, so not quite as scary as standing in front of a bunch of people in a lecture hall and presenting something. But I think it was a good thing to try, at least, because it gets you used to the whole, applying archivist questions and filling out all the basic stuff. But the internship was a really great thing to do. So it taught me a lot, because you really get the real reference questions, and it's hard for even the best, I think, instructor or professor to invent a reference question, that would be very realistic. So that was really fun. I enjoyed that a lot. And I think when I actually finally started to get job interviews, that people were really interested in hearing those kinds of experiences that you had outside the classroom. I was at Guilford Tech.
Kathleen, if there are no questions, or whether you're posing a question, you want to talk just briefly about your experience at within the program, you want to talk about research or just things that you remember? Suggestions?
Sure, I had this in Jamestown where they have a really
really big
program,
campus, and then they have a little
I
campus
took every
in Greensboro,
opportunity
little campus in High
to
Point. So my library
do practicums, independent studies.
corner
I
of
was
this room.
involved
It's
in
got like
Dr.
three
Chow and the
bookshelves
Stars
in it.
Alliance
We have a lot of online
project,
resources,
which I
we
did
do
everything from
instruction
research
and all
to
that stuff. And, it kind of serves as
going
a
to
computer lab
conferences,
for the
speaking at
campus as well. I do a
conferences,
lot
doing
of
academic
even
research
just
was
helping
really
people like
great.
figure out how to use
I
Microsoft
also
Word if they get stuck on it.
took
And
a lot of
our students don't have
opportunities to
like
do
all the computer skills
volunteer
that you think
work
they're probably
around
a little different
area.
than,
I did
that computer
a
knowledge.
8-month
It's very
volunteer
interesting. It's definitely
internship
not what I
at Community College,
expected.
processing the collection at their
My first job
archives.
I feel
That was
like,
a great
it's really fun.
experience. I volunteered
I
and I
think,
did
working
at
at a smaller
a
library
college
is
in
a great
Winston-Salem
first
doing
job.
reference work and ended up getting a job there actually after college. So I got two wonderful jobs that I had one full-time during the day, one 2 evenings a week, and they both came out of internships or work
So what's your
positions
ideal job?
that I had during my graduate experience here.
I want to get into the program and
That's a
explore
great
my
way to
options,
make connections and slide into jobs when they
really
become
interested in
available.
librarian.
Yeah.
I'm also interested in archives.
Well, I've worked in both areas. I worked as an archives technician before I came to UNCG to get my master's degree, and now I'm working for it.
Hi, thanks for the question. I think it heavily factors into it. The question was, how heavily do you think first-hand experience factors in the final decision for employers? And I think it does a lot. Matter of fact, I've sat on a search committee in the past several months for a position at the library, and that's something that you look for. First-hand experience. There's a lot of people out there looking for jobs, and but the fact is that first-hand experience doesn't always mean full-time employment. Again, the employers look very seriously at people who have done internships, serious internships, volunteers, things like that, that have done kind of the extra mile in taking workshops and supplemental education, or whatever they're applying for.
I don't know if you use your first semester. They want you to do a peek in certain classes.
The next question was, as a Jackson Library Archivist, do you go to the SAA conferences and meet to network and for continuing education? Yes, I do, actually. I think that any kind of conference you can go to is a great experience. Not only SAA, but SNCA, which is Society of North Carolina Archivists. Matter of fact, they are having to have their conference actually, and several workshops in Morehead City, and I think it's the end of March. And I'm going there, and I've got some colleagues who are actually presenting there. I'm hoping to present something at the NCLA workshop and conference, which is, I believe, in October in Hickory. So I know there's some things that are far away, but there's some things, some conferences that you can do that are close, and I suggest doing that. Anyway, the bell just rang, so I'm going to pass you along. Thank you for the questions.
Time to move.
Okay. You talk into this computer.
Okay.
There's a lot of ways you can.
And
I'm David.
they see you remember.
It's good to meet you too. I'm not sure if you were here when I worked at UNCG Library Digital Projects Coordinator. And where are you? Are you in the program?
Junior but I'm interested in...
I want to introduce, like, say who you are, and then they can potentially ask you questions. And you'll be able to see the questions in the chat box.
Okay.
And the camera's on the computer, so you can respond verbally.
The camera's here.
Yeah, the camera's on the
And the microphone's here.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
You can see their questions here, answer here.
Literary historian. The rest of his
All right, hello, computer people. My name is Keely. I am a reference librarian at a community college at Guilford Tech Community College. And hello.
You go into it with your eyes open. It's a great program to get into.
Ignoring the questions.
So what do you feel like you might want to do?
Sure.
I guess. But I'm also interested in archives. But particularly when I get into the program, I'll be able to explain my interests. I don't want to say, oh, I'm definitely going to do this.
What I'd like you to suggest you do is, because there's a delay, is go ahead and just,
I introduced myself.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm waiting to
I
see
knew exactly what I wanted to be doing. Most people That's most people, and it's okay.
That's the most awkward thing about chat is if you don't ask quick questions, the person's kind of waiting.
Library media thing, and it almost, I think they really wanted to be law librarians at first. And the thing is, it's kind of an open, it's not a super.
How many people are on there?
Open, flexible program, and you can kind of make it into what you want.
There's about 10 or 15 second delay
libraries
today. You say something that would show up to hear what you say.
Creative.
Please start asking me questions whenever you like.
There's expertise in there that allows you to actually do that. And there'll be somebody that know enough about what you want to do that they can at least do it.
What is your favorite way to network with others?
I wish I knew a good way. I am. A couple of things I do.
Any questions now?
I keep up with listservs, that kind of thing. I'm members of organizations. Absolutely honest. Outside this institution, I haven't done as much networking as I should. I did do my volunteer, my internship for a student, and I have maintained those relationships.
You know, when I first started my degree, I thought I wanted to be a K through 12 school librarian. But I took some intro reference classes and I decided that I was a lot more passionate about reference and instruction, so I figured it out pretty quickly, but I definitely didn't know right away what I wanted to do. But after I decided on reference, I definitely went with that route and did a reference internship and tried to get as much experience as I could with what I was interested in.
Career development budgets.
Being a reference librarian at a community college is pretty different than when I did even my internship at UNCG. Our students are definitely not sometimes at the same level as the students that would be at UNCG. For example, they don't have a lot of the computer skills. Some of them are coming back to school later in life and they might not have learned all those computer skills that today's younger students have. So I end up not just answering research-based reference questions, but helping people with computer trouble, helping them with their Moodle, helping them with computer software in the library as well.
They have the content, so they work together for that. I've been
You were working on a civil rights
that project is done actually years ago. It was a collaborative effort between us.
Also, I would say my library is a lot smaller than some of the academic libraries that any undergrads or that you might have visited when you were an undergrad if you went to a big school. The resources can be a little more limited as far as the online databases and things you can subscribe to, and the budget is definitely an issue as well as far as getting resources, but we have a subscription to all the NC Live databases, and those tend to be really useful, and I'm thankful that we can get access to all of those for our students.
If you go to the library's website, check on view more full digital collections at the top.
I do teach information literacy classes. We try our hardest to get all of the instructors to sign up for library instruction sessions. I just taught a workshop this past week on evaluating websites, and I talked a lot about searching on Google or other search engines for websites that might be beneficial to a school project, and talked about the difference between institutional websites, academic websites, or commercial websites that are trying to sell you something. So that's really something that's really helpful for students that don't have a lot of research experience, is really trying to help them figure out what the best places are for them to get that research information.
Yeah.
how that's going to change over the next few years. There will be the point where it's not as trendy as it is now. Hopefully we'll get to a point where it becomes an expected part of what we do. So
I wouldn't say that at GTCC we have a ton of ESL students. We do have an ESL and a basic skills program, however, and so you do get some students that don't speak English that well in there. I think a basic understanding of other languages would help in any job. I do have a pretty basic Spanish vocabulary and understanding, and that definitely helps, though I notice a lot of times ESL students in this area do not necessarily speak Spanish. They might speak Arabic or another language like that I have no experience with. And in that case, just listening, being understanding, being intuitive really helps with that. All right, they just rang the bell, so we're done.
Okay, everybody, take another hop skip next to How'd it go, Keely? Okay.
I'm good. I got a bunch of questions.
Okay.
And I think I answered them all.
Excellent. Thank you, Keely. Thanks, guys. We're moving over.
Okay.
So, David, the way it works is that we have about 3 or 4 people. They can hear and see you through this. Okay, and then you'll be able to see that they're there, and obviously there's a delay. They'll ask questions via chat. Okay. So once they ask a question, just read out the question and then answer.
Okay, great. Just want to make sure you guys can hear me okay.
There's a lag, so I would say go ahead and introduce whatever you'd like first. So you see questions.
My name's David Glenn. I am a Digital Projects Coordinator for UNCG University Libraries. What we do basically is digitize analog materials, most of them older analog materials, and place them online, accessible that way. I'm not sure which camera I'm supposed to be looking at here, but if you're having any trouble hearing me, no, good. So feel free to ask questions. Are all of you in the LIS program currently?
So that's where I have like my library meetings and staff meetings and stuff like that. So they have a campus in Greensboro and a campus in High Point.
If
campus in Greensboro, there's just one library.
maybe any of you could sort of give me an idea where you are in the program or what you're looking toward doing as career goals long term, that would probably help.
Yeah, well, it's a really small library. It's actually like sort of 2 classrooms where they knock down a wall in the middle.
Yes, I work with digital collections on the website. Again, we do mostly older and more archival material.
Yeah, I've been
We've done documents. Recently, we've been working with yearbooks, other university publications, newspapers. We're about to be digitizing the full run of the Greensboro Patriot, which was an old Greensboro newspaper that operated from the 1840s on.
But what do you want to happen when you get through a program to be able to go out and get a job?
Yeah,
This program has always turned
was very happy to finally find something that sort of used, if you will, my unique background. Because, even as a web designer, it was about content for me, and that's sort of what we get to do now. Rather than an IT professional specifically, I look on myself as more of a content provider.
I think what they're looking for is like the jack of all trades type. That's what I want to be. Yeah, exactly. So that's what they're looking for. I know that's what they're looking for because I applied for the job. It was a reference position. It's like I work part time there, which is ideal. But so that's the kind of thing.
The question is, when did I get interested in the LIS field? And the funny thing is, about 20 years ago, at a job I was working at in retail, one of my coworkers said, we both know we both know a little bit about an awful lot of different subjects. We should be librarians. I didn't really think about that much until I guess the seed was always there, but I didn't think about it much until say 15 years later when I was at a point where I realized that I really needed to change careers and think a little more seriously about what I wanted to do. And as I look back on what I'd been doing for the past 15 years and what my interests were, it was all about this historical material and working with web content and getting things online. And it's sort of I realized that, wow, maybe the best way for me to do this would be in the context of a library. And then all of a sudden, a little light bulb went off, and I thought, oh, weren't we talking about this 15 years ago? So, you know, I'm one of those late career or mid-career librarians. There seem to be a lot of us. But, you know, it was basically, I sort of realized that my interest area was making this content available, and one day I just kind of realized that doing it in the context of a library would be the way to go about it, would be the way to work for me.
The building
almost
part of it,
I would say some days I don't pick really any reference questions. Like I'm in my tiny little library and people need to use the computers and I mean I guess it kind of depends what you consider a reference question. But people are like, I can't log into my Moodle account. Can you help me? And they let us reset the password.
Just for reference.
Tech skills, you know, helping people with computer,
question is, do I think because of tight budgets there are many jobs in the digital area of librarianship? Answer to that question is, I think that most jobs in libraries are in the digital area of librarianship now, whether we necessarily want to admit to that or not. Yeah, I think some level of digital competence is going to be important for pretty much anything you're doing, from reference to archiving to cataloging. The digital thing you've got to know to some extent. I think there's more demand for digital materials to be placed online, and I think ultimately that's going to translate into more resources being given to placing digital materials online. Right now, in a lot of ways, I have to sort of justify what I'm doing. I do a lot of grant writing. I am fortunate in that more than a lot of librarians, I have a lot of support for putting the stuff online, but it's expected too that I'll always be looking for funding sources. Maybe at some point, will be more of a default option, sort of like book acquisitions, that kind of thing. But right now, digitization is expensive, and we sort of have to look for funding for it. But yeah, I think there are a lot of jobs in that area, and I think again over the next few years, all jobs in some ways are going to be related to the digital aspect. And I apologize, I keep coughing here. I noticed one question here. Someone's mentioning they work in online marketing. That's a very strong area to be working in, because I think that's a lot of what we need right now is marketing ourselves. And the bell just rang, so unfortunately I have to let you go and let you know that the Mac here, I'm getting a notice that I'm running on reserve battery power here.
Yeah, we'll switch out.
Thanks. Good to talk to all of you.
Okay, Carol. We have about 3 or 4 people online that can hear and see you from here. And then what they're going to be able to do is ask questions via chat only.
Okay.
So what I want you to do is go ahead and say hello for a couple minutes.
Okay.
And then there's a delay, so their question will appear here. Okay? And then once you get their question, just go ahead and read the question back, and then answer it here. So they'll see you through this camera right here and hear you through this computer. So,
okay.
Yep. So when you want to speak to them, speak to this. And the questions will pop up there.
Right, okay. And I'm to say hello.
Yeah. There are 3 people. They unfortunately can't talk to you, but they can hear everything you say.
Okay. I'm Carol Walters. I'm director for Sand Hill Regional Library System, and we have 5 rural counties, the largest in North Carolina. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have on rural librarianship.
Show competency
and part of it depends on sort of what direction you're going in. Are you I don't remember the star color code. I think academic is red, but I'm academic in high school.
Well, because there's that lag time, may I ask you a question so that you can answer it for them?
Well, I think as far as technology goes, as far as are you looking to work for
How about I ask you a question that you can answer, and then the questions will start appearing there. How about, Carol, given your experience, can you give the students some direct advice as far as planning for their new careers? What are some of the things that they should be doing in library school to get them ready for careers once they start arriving at your libraries or libraries similar to that?
Well, some of the things you need to do are obvious. I mean, sometimes you can't see the relevance in taking a reference course because you know how to reference, you know how to do your papers and so on, but the value in the reference course is far-reaching because you're going to be dealing with customers at your desk in your library setting, whether it's public, school, or what have you, and so that's important. I think being able to stand on your feet, to be able to articulate an idea and defend it is important because you'll be doing that in whatever setting you're in your job. And if you can't do that, you need to learn that while you're in library school. Defending an idea among peers and testing those waters there is valuable when you get out in the public setting, in front of staff, in front of customers, in front of funders for public libraries.
Please be everybody. Next resume consultations are beginning in a few minutes. If you have any questions, come to the info desk. Thanks.
So many things are going on.
I think all of it is how to actually.
And if you could you announce yourself in your chat because we only have your username. Okay, here we go. Here's a question.
That's a lot of things that people are surprisingly laughing about, but I think unfortunately that's a lot about us librarians. We're not devising systems that make it easier for them to pull this information.
The advantages in a rural library are that you get to do a lot of things you learned in library school. You get to do a lot of things you learned in library school, rather than being, when you're in a larger setting, you may be only in the reference department, only in administration, or only in whatever. You wear many hats in public library, and you get to test things to see what you like best. Your personality may be in library marketing, or it may be in children's services, or it may be in adult services. Excuse me. But I think rural librarianship gives you an opportunity to use the many hats that you wear there.
There's a learning curve here.
It's not your first language.
It's not intuitive, that's right. My son knows so much. He can do so much.
Library advocacy. Interesting that you bring up that question. We just finished Library Legislative Day in Raleigh, North Carolina. And we took 8 people from our region and visited 11 legislators. And we had photo sessions, took pictures of us with them. We talked to them about state aid and how it affected our county and how we would lose a great deal of funding if state aid was not kept at the level that it is now for 100 counties. So advocacy is very important.
I appreciate that point greatly. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Carol.
Yep.
All right, Peggy, you get the Terry, whenever you're ready, that laptop died. Oh, really? Okay.
What is this for? Dr. Chow, what is this? I hope it's not watching me. Is it Skyping me?
It is. It's actually saw Ustream. So.
Why don't you get somebody young?
Well, so what we have now is that they can hear and see you, but this laptop has died, so they can't ask you any questions. So it's going to be a 1-on-3 conversation where you can't hear them, but we're getting them up over here. So they can hear and see everything that you say. So feel free to just introduce yourself and say hello and talk a little bit about yourself, and then we should be able to get.
And who is it I'm talking to? This young man here?
That he's one, Whit is one, and then we have 2 others as well.
Okay.
So
And are they students?
they're students. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then we'll get their chat questions up here in just a second. So
Okay.
yeah. So
Okay.
Filler, juggle if you can.
Hello, students. I'm Peggy Wynn. I'm a 2008 graduate of the LIS program at UNCG. I am currently a medical librarian at Wesley Long Hospital. I'm on the panel upcoming as a recent graduate that had a hard time finding a job. Or took a long time finding a job, because it was a bit of a struggle for me to become employed after I got my degree. I attribute that to the fact that I'm older, but primarily because I was not willing to relocate out of Greensboro, out of the Greensboro area. I felt pretty settled here. And I just got a message that say I have background noise, but there isn't a quiet location, so I hope you all can hear me. There are all sorts of alerts going up here. I really don't have anything else to tell you all since I can't have any exchange back and forth with you. But I presume I'll get some questions soon.
Yeah, that's okay.
So I've run out of things to say. Yes, I have. Unless, I'm sure you all don't want to hear my whole life story. I did spend 25 years in healthcare before I was a librarian, which suited, so my position now suits me well for that experience.
So Peggy, one of the other things that always is a question for the students is
back up on chat.
Okay, you're on chat. All right.
Ah.
So now Peggy can hear you. I mean, see your questions. Are there any questions in the queue?
I don't know. I couldn't see anything.
Okay.
It was being very difficult.
Will I be able to hear them with my elderly vision?
Yeah, you'll be able to see their questions.
Okay.
They can hear you.
Okay.
This one up, and we're going to switch out.
So we are back up. Oh, if you all have any questions.
Because this is about yeah, let's get it up and then we'll ask Jason to help us. So let's get it up, get ready to stream, and then we're going to switch. So.
I think I've got this camera and
That's
this
right.
computer.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the camera here. Right. So we'll just wait for questions.
You're talking.
So as they're asking questions, Peggy, let me ask you a question. So what are your suggestions as far as skills and things that you should do while in library school? Kind of in preparation for above and beyond a degree, being prepared for the work.
Absolutely get in some libraries. Get in some libraries with internships, get in some libraries with volunteer work. I was fortunate in that in graduate school I was not working at the time, and so I had more free time to volunteer. But even if you have to spend an evening a week or a weekend a week in a library, that was probably the most valuable thing for me to keep my skills up, particularly when I was job hunting. And it reaffirms your love of libraries and what kind of library you want to be in. I spent some time in a public school library. I realized that's not exactly what I wanted to do.
I have a question, 2 questions now, so if you would read the question.
Okay. I have a question here. What are some of the challenges and advantages of medical librarianship that you found? The challenges for me were that
database searching in medical databases is very different from database searching in anything else I had done. You have to use medical subject headings. You have to really know the vocabulary. And you have to be able to filter. So you not only have to know the vocabulary and look at what you've retrieved, but you have to read some of those articles and know whether or not they're appropriate. I would say that's a challenge. The advantage is that, to me, with a background in healthcare, it was a really exciting field for me to be able to use those skills that I had already as a healthcare, having been in healthcare, to be able to use those skills in this job. So I felt real confident in a hospital setting. I feel real confident dealing with healthcare providers. I'm not intimidated by physicians or nursing executives or any of those people. Is a medical background necessary to be a medical librarian? I don't know if really a medical medical background is, but you sure need to have some experience. It's probably not absolutely necessary, but I think they are probably able to find medical librarians with backgrounds in healthcare in positions that are available now. So I think if you didn't have some kind of background, either in a medical library or in healthcare, that you would not be able to move from library school into this kind of job without some kind of experience. And I think volunteering in some of these libraries, if you think you might be interested in medical librarianship, you volunteer in a medical library or a healthcare library or something similar to that.
I guess it depends on what they're doing, and it was just in the public library because it was very easy to access.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Peggy.
Sure. Thank you all.
Let's see how our batteries are. Okay, it's
26%.
They never had to like.
Okay. Thanks, guys. We're moving on to the next group.
Thank you. Good luck to you.
Where I am now, we do.
You want me to move this one?
He'll move it there.
Sometimes that's kind of difficult to enforce, but nice to meet you too.
Okay, so the way this works is that we have 3 people online and they can hear and see you.
Okay.
So speak to hear.
Okay.
Okay, and we don't have their audio though, so they're going to have to ask chat. They're going to have questions via chat.
Okay.
Okay, so for folks online, if you would, please use your name when you're introducing yourself. That way she can speak to you using your name. And feel free to ask any questions you like. There's a delay, so you can actually see. So why don't you introduce yourself here and maybe talk a little bit about skills and things that they might want to consider doing while they're in school.
Okay.
And then by then questions to start forming there. So,
Okay, great. Hi, my name is Amy Pace, and I graduated from the MLIS program in May of 2008, and now I work at High Point University in their University Center Learning Commons, which is kind of like an embedded librarian. I do a lot of virtual reference services. I've done some instruction classes. I liaise with some departments on campus, and this is all very new to me because I started here a year ago, and now before that I was a public library paraprofessional, and I did that for 3 years while I was in school. And I've loved all of my experiences. I knew I wanted to do academic library eventually, so I had started applying for those while I was, or right after I finished the program. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Physicians and staff. I mean, we have public people wander into the library, and who has a consumer health section, but the people that wander into my library that is next to the cafeteria, it's probably the place to be. It is, but they wander in and they're very daunting because it's a very, very small.
You go from a really, really large clientele to a really, really sort of narrow clientele. So I deal with especially at High Point University, we mainly have traditional day students, and of course they have all different majors, but all of their questions often are, on specific assignments. But then when I was at the public library, I did a lot of reference desk hours there too, but your questions were just so varied and had to be prepared for anything. And so lots of different people come in. Let me see if there's any other major differences. I had to be a lot more flexible with everything actually in the public library like I did. I helped with a volunteer income tax assistance program. I did children's programming, I did teen programming, I did adult programming. Pretty much wherever you see a need, and this is true in the academic library, but it's just so much more focused. Where you see a need, just try to fill it, and that can be so much more varied in the public library. Thanks, Bethany. That was a really good question. Did I answer your question all the way?
I did a lot of work with insurance companies too, sort of a variety.
Okay, so for Deborah's question, I do teach information literacy questions, or information literacy classes to, mainly I've been doing English Comm. My background is or my bachelor's degree is in English, and I've done some other like grade levels. I've done some higher level English classes and some beginners level bio, beginners level, and not many of the bio because it's not my strongest point, but getting them accustomed to our main bio database and things like that. I've done education. I've done not really any business. We try to play to our strengths, so some of our other librarians do a bit more of those. But I'm open to learning, of course, more about the different resources that we have, and I'll probably do some in the future. For the most part, our instruction is requested by faculty. So our head of instruction, who schedules all of our classes, puts out a email to all of the faculty asking who might want some bibliographic instruction time at the library. And then she takes requests and we put them on the calendar and she assigns them to the different librarians, and we try to make them as tailored as possible to their assignments. So we'll ask details about maybe some topic examples that people are doing, and maybe even a copy of the assignment if we can get one, and then so we don't market too much. We do some workshops, and those are for students and faculty on things like APA citation and MLA citation, if you have a specific research need. And then for faculty, like right now, we're doing sort of a fun productivity and collaboration tools workshop in the next few weeks. And we do kind of market those ourselves. We make advertisements and email the faculty, put out some posters. We have kind of an internal advertising system, and that's helped out a lot. Oh, I work at High Point University and the Learning Commons, which is across campus from the Michael Library. Did that answer your question, Deborah?
Physicians, I'm curious, it's not really, is it that they want an answer to a certain question and your role is to find it, or are you actually teaching them, giving them tips?
Most of the physicians, mostly what they want is a specific article.
Yeah.
They have found it somewhere.
And they need you to
and they want me to get the copy of it. That's 99% of what the physicians want.
other departments want
Oh, I just heard the bell, so I think we're going to be switching people in just a second.
Patient care committees.
Thank you.
Some of the patient care committees want literature searches because they're doing research projects on.
So you will do a literature search and then the best articles.
Find the best articles and then send them the bibliography, and then they want the actual hard copy. Once they've read the
I just missed what she said.
I think the next has something is on. It's me. I'm on for.
I do work with
We
them.
recently graduated and will find a job. When we finish,
December. I'm an occupational therapy assistant.
Yes.
Really?
So that's what I do. Yes, I've been there a little over a year.
It was particularly interesting
Yes.
what this is.
Yes, well,
So very interesting.
Librarianship was really
Oh, wow.
I mean, I think the thing that helped me get the job was my experience in health.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you kind of know,
Tell me the name again.
Okay.
Wesley. I don't.
Wesley Long Hospital.
Wesley.
W-E-S.
I'm not really mad.
Long. L-O-N-G.
Long. Okay.
Hospital. And it's part of the Moses County Health
Yes.
System.
Okay. Yeah, it's the big word stone.
So if you want to come visit me, I'd love to have you over there.
I work full time, but maybe it's possible at some point. I'd love to.
So are you not going to do occupational therapy?
No. I just had this burning desire.
We just had a great time. Here I am. It is
I'm just
I had the best time, and it is nice to have a job already.
We're already talking about.
Yes, that's what I did. I mean, I got to go back to school to get a master's degree just for fun. It's nice to meet you.
I don't know what they're going to put there eventually, but
Is your library packed already?
it is. I guess it's a 4-story building, but its top floor has been sort of taken over by academic services, and we didn't have anywhere to really put it. So they're getting bigger, and we got the Learning Commons, which is where I work, across the university, and I think it was just sort of an addition to help with the overflow of too many people. So I think Smith is going to be proud because they're going to move some of the stacks down to the 3rd floor, and it's going to get, I see one in the future. I don't know. We've got a lot more plans for this, so maybe. I don't know if I'll still be there. Oh, okay. But you should come and take a tour. It's kind of impressive. And all the changes that have been made in the past, just like 5 years.
When you're next on campus, ask the libraries.
I will. I'll ask David, because I'm very sure he remembers. Did you know David, Brian?
No, the people are always here with us.
I believe my sister. Okay.
It's great here. This was a long time ago. Some chairs here for the suite campus. And I hope they can. I hope the money's really back there so I'm not going to pay for it.
I know. I'm curious to see how, where, what, where that'll all come from. If we'll know.
Oh, that's great.
Yes, come on. So we're able to. I don't know where to go.
Good to see you.
Yeah, let's do it.
Do you want to try?
Yeah, that would be that.
Where do you think I should set up the camera? Probably need to plug in, I would imagine.
Yeah, where is that plug? It's right there.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll use this one.
And we hope, can I just see a show of, well, no. Again, Anthony, we need to remember evaluation on our committee.
Yes, absolutely. We will send a follow-up. We'll send a follow-up email.
Yeah, because we'd like to know how people like the speed networking and have a little feedback about that. But I thought it would be an interesting part of the day for all of you to listen to some new grads, all graduated within the last couple of years, talk about what the job searching experience was like for them and how they finally landed a job. And so this panel, I'll have you have them introduce themselves, but I hope it'll be really interactive. So if I don't think they'll mind if you have a question, just raise your hand, and I'm sure we can get that answered. So we'll start with Seth.
What would you like to talk about?
Yeah, just kind of a little bit about when you graduated and what your experience was before, and then kind of say what that those months when you were looking for a job, if I knew it was several months, what you did.
First I want to say my name is Seth Allen. I finished the library science program in 2009. I did the Charlotte program, so I don't see hardly any familiar faces in here, but that's fine. Prior to going to library school, I'll start there. I was unemployed, and I know it's cliche, but I like to read books, so I was like, well, I'll go to library school. So applied to library school, got a job at a public library, Charlotte Mecklenburg Library. Was there for about 3.5 years, and that's when I started the program. I finished it in 2.5 years. I really started the professional job search within the last year of library school. I started looking for professional jobs there, and honestly, from the time that I really started looking for professional jobs, about 6 months before graduation to the 10 months after graduation, I had 2 job interviews. One of them was with Bank of America, and I'm glad I did not get that job because shortly afterwards they closed down that library. That was during the time that the mortgage crisis really hit Bank of America. And I know it's not easy, and a lot of you guys are probably anxious about the job market and so forth. You know, I did all the typical things. I went to what's called Metro Atlanta Library Association. It's an association of public academic school libraries in Charlotte. Did some networking there. Of course, I looked at the ALA job database. I wanted to be an academic librarian, so I did look at school websites and so forth. I had that job, and shortly after graduation, I applied for a reference librarian job at Johnson & Wales University. Maybe you guys know Richard Monas. I don't know if he teaches classes here, but he does teach in the library science program as well as being the director of Johnson & Wales. The interesting thing about my job, I was sitting in the staff workroom one day, and you know, a couple of coworkers and I, it was just, you know, a typical afternoon. We were just chatting. You know, this is what librarians do at the work. We don't do anything else, right? And one of the coworkers said, I went to this church as a child, and I think it's been turned into a monastery or a seminary. So out of curiosity, we Googled it. And another coworker was looking at the site, and she clicked on employment opportunities. And she said, look, Seth, there's a head librarian job. I'd never heard of this school. It's called New Life Theological Seminary. I put together a CV, had no idea how to put together a CV. Even the resume books, there was maybe one CV in the public library of how to put one together. Interviewed for the job. 3 weeks later, I started there. I was the only person. The position had been online for 6 months, and I got the job. And it's been a really great experience. It's myself, and I have an assistant who works 20 hours a week. So I do everything from budgeting. I do library instruction. I do what little bit of collection management we can do. I try to cultivate relationships with churches and ministries to see if they'd be interested in donating to the library or helping us with different projects. So you name it. And even where I am, I'm doing student IDs. I have to take their pictures and send them off to a company. And also filming chapel and putting that online. So it's been really interesting. But I mean, if anything else, I would say just be flexible. You know, find your own niche and just exploit it as much as possible. Any questions?
My name is Kathleen Smith, and I graduated a year ago last December. And I am now the Artifacts, Textiles, and Digital Projects Archivist at Jackson Library, full-time. And so, let's see, suggestions. Well, I was lucky. I didn't have to go through much of a job search as it was because I was actually in the department. And I joke around that I was so ensconced in there. I had done independent studies, practicum, departmental work student, to the point where I just wasn't going to leave. They had to hire me. But other than that, a suggestion actually that I heard when I was in library science school was look for a job every day. Okay, go online and look for a job. And it'll show you what's out there. It's less knowledge is one way to alleviate fears. And one thing you'll see is there are jobs out there. And see what they want. See what you're lacking. See what kind of skills that you need to get a job. Our field is changing quickly. And there may be things that you need now that 2 or 3 years ago you might not have needed, or even 2 or 3 months ago. So look for a job all the time. That's a good suggestion. Also, don't miss an opportunity, not one, especially now that you're in school and you might have a little bit of free time. Volunteer when you can. Take internships, free if you have to. Do whatever you have to do it. Volunteer if you work full-time. Volunteer on the weekends. Volunteer at night. Offer yourself, go into some place where you want to work, an institution that you might even want to work, and offer yourself. People are dying for help. There are budget cuts everywhere, and people really appreciate someone coming in and wanting to lend a helping hand. Especially if you've got digital knowledge. A lot of times, smaller institutions may not quite have caught up with computer technology, and they may really appreciate someone coming in and going, I've got these skills, what can I do for you? And then things happen. In my position, I was ensconced in there, and someone left. And I applied, and I was already in the department. I knew the collection, I knew the materials, I knew the people. They knew me, and they knew I was reliable. And so, of course, I hoped I would have gotten extra consideration. So those are all important things. One thing I mentioned under the speed dating is that make sure you've got a good CV, and make sure you write a bang-up cover letter, bringing everything together, because it makes a difference when you're looking for a job. And now that I'm on the other side, interviewing anything from student workers to volunteers, one thing I do in my job is I manage 13 or 14 student workers, interns, volunteers, independent study students, and we interview a lot. Have a good, if not a cover letter, have a CV, because you never know when you're going to meet somebody who you look interesting to, and they go, you know, we've got a position open, or we've got something coming up. Do you have your CV with you? Do you have a card? And there you sit. And you want to say, sure, I'll give you an email. I'll send that to you tomorrow. And so that's not the time to get your CV together. It's right now. Have it together, so when an opportunity arises, which it will, you can send it immediately. Those are my suggestions.
I'm Peggy Wynn. I graduated from the program in December of 2008. I had quite a struggle finding a job. I like to attribute it to the fact that I'm on the dark side of 50. And yes. And I had some other issues too, but I cannot reinforce enough volunteering. And then the suggestion I'll also make on volunteering is when you're volunteering, treat it like a job. Follow their dress code. Show up when you say you're going to show up. Give them a regular schedule. Act like it is your job, not just something you're helping someone out with. Because places that use volunteers become very frustrated because there seems to be kind of a culture of, well, it's just a volunteer thing, so I really don't have to go. If you're not going to go, no. I did spend 2.5 years at the Greensboro Public Library as a volunteer with the hope that something would come along. It didn't, and I'm actually working at Wesley Long Hospital as a medical librarian, which is perfect for me. When I took this job at the hospital, probably 3 weeks following that, 2 positions opened at the public library. And I agonized, did I make a mistake? I actually love my job. I did spend 25 years in healthcare before I went to library school, so it's a really good fit for me, and I'm enjoying it a lot. But I think my advice is the volunteer advice. Internships, volunteering, unpaid internships on the weekends, in the evenings. It not only helps you know whether you're really interested in that kind of library, it keeps your skills sharp too. I spent 2.5 years unemployed or underemployed. I did some little side gigs that weren't library related, but it keeps your skills honed. And one of the interview questions I had at the hospital library was, what have you been doing for 2.5 years to keep your skills fresh? And I was able to say, well, I've been in the reference department of the public library. I took a class, I did this, I learned this application. So it's very important. But there are jobs out there, and don't be discouraged by my story. Not only my age, which I know had a lot to do with it, but I was not willing to leave Greensboro. And if you're willing to leave Greensboro or North Carolina, I think there's a lot more opportunities. North Carolina's putting out a lot of libraries. And if you limit yourself to this area, you're really going to limit your chances.
My name is Keely Murray. I graduated in spring of 2009. I spent over a year looking for a library job. So I had a little bit of a tough time of it like Peggy did. I ended up moving to Carborough for various reasons. And then of
course, I ended up getting a job back where I started, near Greensboro. I work right now at Guilford Tech Community College in the High Point campus, so just, maybe 15 minutes or so away from here. Still live in Carborough. I work part-time, so I commute back and forth, which is not, of course, an ideal situation, but that's the kind of thing you have to be really adaptable, like Mike was saying. So during my year that I spent looking for a job, I worked at this gourmet food store in Chapel Hill called the Southern Season. I had never worked in a customer service store type of job ever. I've just always been lucky to work. I worked in education and youth centers. I worked in all different types of things, but never even had a job in a store when I was in high school. So it was a really different experience for me. I think it builds character, as cheesy as that sounds. Working in a customer service type of role is definitely humbling in a way. And I can't say that I enjoyed it, but it did teach me a lot. And also, I think that kind of experience is important. It really makes you think about how your other life skills and how your other job skills that you've had in the past could apply to being a librarian. Because what you're doing is working with people, and that's what I did at the store all day, answering questions about the products, trying to memorize everything that was in the store so I could answer everyone's questions, trying to convince people to use the store services, I guess you might say. Teaching people, I worked in a coffee and tea department, so I was doing a little bit of instruction, I guess you might say, on how to prepare coffee and tea. So I kind of became a weird expert on that kind of thing. So I try my best to, enjoy learning, even though it was about something that is not really library or education related in that way. Had a lot of cranky customers, a lot of days where, I would spend 8 hours on my feet pretty much every day, 40 hours a week. I really did not want to volunteer anywhere because I was tired, but I did it anyway. Like Peggy was saying, volunteering is really important. I couldn't really find a good place to volunteer where I could actually go in and sit at a reference desk or something like that. So I looked and looked until I found a volunteer job as a virtual reference librarian. And I still do it. Even though I'm employed, I'm working part-time now, and I'm always looking towards the future, which I think is really important. So I still volunteer for the NC Knows. It's a virtual reference service that's affiliated with NC Live. So one night a week, I sit at home and I answer reference questions in my living room on my computer, and it's a lot of fun. Sometimes it's difficult because people ask you really random stuff, and I might not know the answer to it, but it's fun because it's about knowing how to find resources, knowing where to turn if you don't know the answer, referring them to other libraries, all the kind of skills that you need when you're working in a physical library. So I would say that I spent about maybe half the year that I was looking for a library job not volunteering anywhere because I felt like I didn't have the time, because I really felt like I needed to work and make money and pay my bills, which I definitely did. So I finally got that gig, and let me tell you, after I'd been working there for a month or two, it felt like I had built up enough of a relationship with the guy that runs it where I could put it on my resume. I started getting interviews. So I really think that it makes a difference. If they see something on there that you're doing right now and it looks good, if you're doing something for free, it shows that you really, really want it. And also just being willing to, when you're in the interview, don't feel so self-conscious that you didn't have a library job. You don't have to feel bad about it, because I kind of felt like that at first, oh, I have to tell people that I work at the store. But really, you have to just flip it around and be proud that you're still making it and that you're still looking for a library job, and tell them what kind of skills you've accumulated working at that job that can help you in their library. So it is tough out there, and I do think that it's getting better. I really agree with the other panelists in that there are more jobs, and you just need to look and look and look as much as you can and apply for everything that you can think of. And I would say going on interviews is really helpful too, because you get to know what kind of questions they're going to ask. So even if you apply for a job that might not be your dream job or might not be totally related to what you want to do, just go on the interview anyway. You might find out that you're more interested in it than you thought.
Can I interject for a second? We have people tell us in the library school all the time that it would be a really good idea for the library school to emphasize customer service. That's a hard thing to do because we don't have customers. And so I just want to point out that your future employers really care that you know how to do customer service. Because no matter what kind of library, all the different libraries that you heard about today, you need to be able to work with whoever they define as customers, whether it's kindergartners or research scientists. They want to know that you're going to be able to attend to what those people need. And so if you've got customer service in your background, play that up. They want to know. So, I'll turn it back over to Amy.
Hi, I'm Amy Pace, and I graduated in May of 2008. And I didn't have a library job for a long time. I got a paraprofessional job maybe after a year I was in the program. And I worked there for 3 years. And somewhere in there I graduated, and then I started really, really looking for a professional library position. And I applied for jobs every day, and I went on a lot of interviews, and I thought I did really well sometimes, and sometimes I thought I totally did horrible. And I got really discouraged, but I just kept trying, and finally I got the job that I have now, which is at High Point University. I went into work in an academic library, and although I didn't have any academic library experience, so that was, one big thing. But while I was at the public library for 3 years, I did a lot of saying yes, and I took on as much responsibility as I could, and I tried new things, and when I saw that something wasn't being done, I decided that was going to be my project, and I tried to figure out the best way to do it. So while I was at the public library, I got a lot of customer service experience, and I worked with all different levels. Like the first job I got, I had done some camp counseling, so I related that to my experience, and I got like a children's assistant librarian position, or assistant paraprofessional librarian position. And even though I had really no idea how to do that, but I learned, and I was in a class at in the school, and used that really heavily to explore how I could do better. And I asked my coworkers a lot of questions, and it didn't pay very well, and I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do, but I just kept looking about other things I can do in the public library, because there is so much that you can volunteer for and take on. So I worked with teens, and I worked with adults, and I did computer classes, which weren't being done before. I helped with a volunteer income tax assistance program that nobody wants to do, but that, you can relate that to your resume by saying that, you coordinated groups of people, you've learned new skills, you have great customer service skills when working with people with their income taxes. That was, not something that I ever thought I would be doing while I was in library school, but I did it. And then when you're working on your resume, when you're looking for that professional job, taking all of the things that I had done and relating them to how I could, work in an academic library environment was, I think, what eventually got me the job. Just looking and saying yes and taking on more and more responsibility and learning how to network better, because I had a really, really hard time doing that. So going to conferences and making myself go and talk to people. Knowing lots of people it helps a lot of people, so I would recommend that in your job search, just being open to meeting new people all the time. I agree with a lot of the things that everyone else said. I think I've run out.
I have a question for folks, and then we'll open it up to questions in the floor. Talk about relating the cover letter to the job.
Cover letters,
like struggle with these, and I know everyone does, because you never know how to start it off, how to make yourself sound good without bragging too much, I guess, if that's the right word for it. I would say the number one thing about a cover letter is once you think you've included everything, have somebody that knows you really well. It doesn't even, I mean, it could be a professor or it could be, you know, someone that you've worked with in the past. But I just had even my friends look at it or my boyfriend look at it, you know, and he would say, oh, well, why don't you mention this? And it might be something that you didn't even think related to your job or something about your personality that relates to your job or the job that you want to get. I would say always, always, always have someone look over it. You think that you did everything perfect on it. You've looked at it so much that you're going to miss something. I feel like I was kind of in that boat where you just want to hurry up and get it done and you don't want to spend the time to like send it to someone and then have them correct it and send it back again. I think that's really important, is get some other people's eyes on it, especially people that know you and the work that you've done, about your personality and all that. Because you can always, like everyone was saying, relate other skills that you've had in other non-library jobs to the job that you want to apply for.
And literally take your job notice or whatever you're applying for and your cover letter and check it off.
Yeah, check it out.
Make sure you, every point, and even if you have something that you don't qualify for, if you don't have that much experience in, try to bring in some kind of experience to it. You know, even if you have to, you know, just but note it, because what I told someone earlier, what people don't want to do is go digging through your resume to try to find something that you should have included in your cover letter. There's just too many people applying for these jobs.
Let me add one more thing about interviewing. I think I had my most successful interviews after I had a practice interview with a friend of mine who's very blunt. And I had an interview scheduled, and she spent the weekend literally grilling me. And don't say this, don't say that. I tend to joke, and she doesn't tell any jokes. But she was very honest with me, and this was very late in my application process, and I know that helped me so much, because I felt myself during these 2 interviews that I had biting my tongue, saying, don't share that, don't share that.
And that counts for phone interviews too. Don't forget, a lot of your interviews will be phone interviews.
Yes.
And being on the other side, again, it's amazing how you get a great resume and someone can choke on a phone interview. So if there's any way you can practice doing that, practice a phone interview.
Yeah, like thinking about like what not to share in an interview too. A lot of interviewers, when I was working at that gourmet food store, and people would be like all excited to ask you about that, and my initial response was, I hate that job, and I really did. But that's not what people want to hear. Like, they don't want to hear you talk bad about the current job you have. That doesn't sound good in any field. So what I just, I'm not going to go on the other side and like really go nuts about it, because then they'd be like, well, why do you even want to leave that position? Probably, but I just tried to really talk about the positive aspects of working there, and then really quickly like flip it over to what skills I learned that could be beneficial to this job. I think that's always good. Is don't try to talk down your job just because it's not a library job. They don't want to hear that, definitely not.
Sorry, keep it. I have one more point also that took me several applications to learn. When you're applying for a job, for instance, through the city of Greensboro, you need to take their job posting and basically copy and paste those skill sets that they want into the actual application. Those applications go to a person in the Human Resources Department that knows no synonyms. They have no idea what MLIS means. They only are looking at the words in the posting against the words in an application. Your resume won't even make it past Human Resources. And if it doesn't make it past Human Resources, you have no chance at all. You won't even get an interview. And this is, I think this is true, I know it's true in the city of Greensboro because I knew people there that didn't get my resume. I called them. It was unpleasant to the person in human resources to find out why. And I have the feeling that it applies to any time you're filling out a form application and sending it to the Human Resources Department, even if you attach your resume and paste it in there or whatever. So,
and that's true of company libraries. Usually Human Resources sees those first. It's rare in academic libraries that Human Resources does it, but it varies on the by the institution.
Guilford College does it that way.
So you really be very aware where you're sending that cover letter to, whatever that address is. I think that's really good advice to, be very attentive to that, because the person who's going to see it first doesn't know anything about libraries. To that end, lots of you are getting resume advice today. I happen to be talking to a practicum student who's at Greensboro Library right now, and they have a career resource center. She's been helping them out, and one of the things that they showed me was a skill grid that she advises her clients to put right at the top of their resumes, and not in a paragraph form, not skills in a paragraph form, but skills in a grid that or a table, and so that it's very compact, but and this is the kind of place where you would put the skills that they actually list in the job posting, and she had them put it right at the top of the resume. So that's something to think about, especially with dealing with human resources. You want to be able to match as much as you can to that posting. Any questions from the field? Everybody's tired. Everybody wants to be outside. Any last words of advice? Anybody on the panel? I wanted to ask Keely one other thing about being a volunteer for NC Knows. When you did that, did you have access to the NC Life databases fairly easily? Did they?
It's not as easy as I would like. I still have to log in, just like another person using it.
Okay.
But once you log in, you don't have to keep logging in over and over again. It's pretty easy to use. But yeah, it's good too because what that does is it allows you to guide people through it as well. But yeah, virtual reference I think is an up and coming field. So any experience you can get with that, for that is good. Seth?
When I had speed dating with a couple of guys, I talked about the importance of making your own niche within libraries. As budgets are crunched and libraries become sort of hybrid institutions. We talked about embedded librarian. Think about another skill as well that you can add, because I see more and more it's not enough just to have the library degree, because the library today is expected to do a lot of other tasks. So if you know how to do web design, that's a huge thing. For example, I'm going to Appalachian State online, and I'm getting about 18 credit hours of graduate sociology credit. And in the state of North Carolina and in most states, if you have a master's degree plus 18 credit hours in a subject area you can teach. If you want to teach, or if you want to be like an academic librarian, especially community colleges, that's huge to have. So not only what can you do with libraries, because you can be very well versed in library services, you can know libraries inside out, but sometimes they're also looking for someone who can also, fill another niche that maybe in the past they would have had money for like a part-time position for.
I'm sorry, I was laughing. Okay, so I also ran the graduation, and I was in charge of the awards ceremony, and that I wasn't prepared in library school to run ceremonies. So you have to be very flexible in small institutions, because they really want you to be able to do a lot of different things. One other question. Oh, anybody have any other stories they want to tell about phone interviews? You didn't have any? Oh, interesting. Okay. What did you think? What, any tips on?
No, one of them didn't go anywhere. One of them I got a second.
I find them rather scary. Oh, Jennifer,
They
would
are
you like to
scary.
share?
Okay, I had a phone interview where partway through it, I had said that I would be able to start with a 2-week notice with my current job, and they said, "Oh, I'm sorry, we're looking for someone to start as soon as we tell them to come in." So unless they specifically ask, "When can you start?" leave it open.
Don't answer questions they didn't ask. That's a very important thing. And it's a very hard thing with phone interviews because you can't see the people. And so you don't really know that whatever you just said went over like a lead balloon. And so it's an art that good practice, because if you're applying for something out of state at all, you're going to be phone interviewed first. Very few people will pay money to fly you into a job interview unless they phone interview you first. But the good thing about a phone interview is you're probably one of the top 6 to 10 candidates. They're not going to even take time with phone interviews if you're not really one of the few that they're going to do. Okay. Any other questions? Well, let's give our panelists a round of applause. Thank you very much for your interest, and I hope through the speed networking you felt like